I'm delighted to say Robert is with us. Hello, Robert. How are you?
I am wonderful.
Oh, and a Happy New Year, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's not New Year's now, but I'm guessing this will be aired that way.
When this goes out, it's a Happy New Year.
Okay, wonderful. Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Nosferatu, so what a film you have introduced us to here, a long time in the making. You and Nosferatu go back how far?
I watched the Murnau film for the first time when I was 9 years old. So yes, it is a long history.
Yeah, and you've put it on before.
Yes, when I was so inspired by the film that when I was in high school, I did a modest senior-directed play of that, and the artistic director of a local theater company saw that production and invited me to do a more professional version of it at his theater, and it kind of changed my life. It instilled that I wanted to be a director and made Nosferatu a powerful part of my identity. I hate to say, and so even if this film had never happened, like Nosferatu would always be some kind of obsession.
Okay. And did you have a role in that early production?
Embarrassingly, I was indeed Count Orlok.
Okay. So for new arrivals, what's the difference between Nosferatu and a Dracula movie, if anything?
I mean, traditionally, it takes place in Germany. The thrust of the story takes place in Germany and not England, and in the 1830s rather than the end of the 19th century. So it's more about German romanticism than modernity, Victorian modernity versus the past or something, and. The final act of the previous two versions of Nosferatu ends with the female protagonist being the heroine rather than a bunch of dudes staking the vampire, and that's some of it.
Yes,
I mean the vampire doesn't create more vampires in the Murnau film. They simply die.
Yeah. And of course, originally it was a copyright thing because you could.
Well, that's actually not true.
Is that not? Okay.
So basically, the Murnau and his collaborators in 1922 they didn't get the rights to do Dracula. Yeah, and they didn't get the rights. So and Florence Stoker, Bram Stoker's widow, sued them and won and tried to get every copy of the film destroyed. But I believe that they were actually changing the story to suit their own taste and their own interests, and it wasn't just about like trying to not get caught making Dracula. I think that, and in fact, Stoker's novel is the story of it, what it has inspired in cinema and in so many art forms is incredible, but the book itself is okay. It's okay. And I think that, Nosferatu distilling Stoker's story into a more enigmatic fairy tale is much more powerful, which is also why I chose to do my version of this story as Nosferatu.
Yes, and as soon as you say the word Nosferatu, people will have an image immediately coming to their mind. Maybe it's Max Schreck, maybe it's Klaus Kinski.
Yeah.
Is it difficult to move from? I was going to say it's a contamination, but it's is it difficult to move beyond that when you're trying to create something that's new?
You always have to be respectful of the past, and obviously I have utmost respect for this. But I think, if I'm being really harsh on something that I love, like what the hell is Max Schreck? Like what are those teeth and the ears? It's like he's a creature and he's not a human, which is cool. It's iconic and it's incredible. But in the sort of evolution of the cinematic vampire from Shrek to Edward Cullen, vampires are no longer scary. And so in trying to, one of the main things that I did in trying to make this my own was to understand like how to make a vampire scary again. And so I went back to the folkloric vampire, back to the time when people actually believed that vampires were real. And the early folkloric vampires are, dead humans, and they're a walking corpse. So then you have to ask yourself, what would a dead Transylvanian nobleman actually look like? And so then we have this, the costume of a Hungarian finery from the 16th century. We have certain hairstyles. But I also make nods to Shrek, the shape of his skull, his profile a bit, the fingernails, because again, you have to respect what came before. Yeah. And also, while I think people are ready for something new, they also, want to feel cozy if they're coming to see a familiar story.